member of the school committee wants to just raise your hand and introduce yourself, those who are here, and then we can start over here and just introduce yourself and your position.
I'm John Manzo. Mark McBride.
John Fabiano.
Victor Paul.
And I believe your fearless leader is on her way, so.
Oh, she's
There you are. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see you, right? Okay, so, starting off, okay.
Raquel Keller, Director of Finance and Operations for Bristol Warren Regional School District. Erin Schofield, Chairperson of the Bristol Warren Regional School Committee.
Brian Bradshaw, Treasurer, Bristol Warren Regional School.
Mario Landry, Superintendent of Schools.
Aaron Lane, Bristol Town Council.
Tony Teixeira, Bristol Town Council.
Mary Perla, Bristol Town Council.
Tim Sweeney, Bristol Town Council.
Steve Contenti, Bristol Town Administrator.
Nathan Calero, Bristol Town Council.
Carrie Cronin, Bristol Warren Town Council.
Tamara Kaplan, parent of 2 KMS students and a taxpayer of Warren.
And I am Steve Calendo, Warren Town Council, and even though I served many years in Bristol, I am a Warren resident. I'm proud to be there.
Okay, I will hand it over to Nathan at this time.
So we're doing a little tandem here because the next step here is to elect a new chair, and both communities felt it was appropriate that we both kind of co-chair this for about 20 seconds or so. So we're at the point here that we're going to ask for nominations, and this is the election of officers. There's only one officer, which would be the chair. So at this point, we are accepting nominations for chair.
I would like to nominate Steve Kalenda for chair.
I'll second the motion.
We have a nomination for Steve Kalenda as chair. Is there any other nominations? Can I have a motion to close
So moved.
nominations? Thank you.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So we have one cast vote for Steve Kalenda. Congratulations, Steve Kalenda.
Thank you. I'm honored to serve. Good evening and welcome to the first meeting of the Joint Finance Committee. Thank you to my esteemed colleagues, Nathan and Carrie, for making all the introductions, and we can get right into the meeting on our agenda. Just real do's and don'ts. I don't believe there's any public comment. So if there is need for a public comment, we would obviously identify you. I was a former chairman of the zoning board of the town of Warren for many years, and I only had to use my gavel twice. So I have no intention to ever use my gavel, and hopefully everybody will just act accordingly and appropriately. The first matter on our agenda is the organizational meeting, which I believe is going to be pushed to our next meeting. We can have some brief discussion on it, or we can just go to it at our next meeting. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, there's a matter of acceptance of the minutes. The minutes were disseminated. They should have been delivered to each member on the committee. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next on our agenda is the presentation of the Bristol Warren Regional School District Administrator and School Committee proposed 2019 and 2020 school budget. I believe Dr. Andre is in the building. I've seen him, and he is ready to present. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Prior to my presentation, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our chair, Mrs. Schofield.
Thank you. I just wanted to say a few words. I don't know if I'm sure I can speak from here. Okay. Sure. Do I press? Oh, okay. Good evening, and thank you to everyone for coming tonight. I think it really shows how committed our community is to our kids and our schools. And thank you to all of you on the JFC for all your support and for all the hard work you do in our community. I know it's not easy. Our superintendent, Dr. Mario Andre, our director of finance, Raquel Pellerin, and our budget subcommittee chair, Brian Bradshaw, will be sharing a presentation with you shortly, answering any questions you have. But I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about one of our budget priorities, which is social emotional learning and development. As you all know, our teachers have brought to the attention of the school committee the profound need for social emotional support at our middle school. Why? Because we do not currently have the systems in place to support the social emotional issues our students are dealing with. We need to meet those needs better. We have students who have difficulty getting through the school day because they suffer from extreme anxiety. We have students who have experienced profound traumas, and we have everything in between. These students don't check their anxiety or their worries or fears or sadness at the door when they arrive at school. They bring them inside with them. We need to provide our teachers and administrators with the supports they need to support our students. And I'm not just talking about KMS, I'm talking about all our schools and all our kids. Every child in our district is growing and developing, and they all need guidance in navigating their feelings, emotions, and their individual experiences. All learning really is social emotional learning. I'm going to wrap up by saying what I know you all already know. Our schools are the nucleus of our community. They are our children's second home. They are what draws people to settle here, and they are what brings us together. They're the places where our children should absolutely be focused on academics, but not without a focus on life skills, relationship building, respect, understanding, self-worth, and empathy. It's an investment, but it's a worthy one. I share this with all of you not because I don't think we share the same values. I know that we do. But when discussing the budget, I think it's important to have context. I also share this with you because I don't believe this is exclusively a school issue. I believe this is a community issue. And the stronger we make our schools, the stronger our community will be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I want to echo what Mrs. Schofield said about thank you for your time and attendance this evening and your dedication to these two communities. And thank you to everyone that came tonight. The budget that we're going to present to you this evening has been a lot of hard work from a lot of people. The teachers, not only the teachers, the school building principals, and especially our Director of Finance and Operations, our Superintendent, have put in countless hours putting this together. This is relatively new for a lot of us, for a lot of them, and how we're building our budget and how we're structuring our budget. And they're going to get into a little bit of that with you shortly. But I just wanted to leave you with three things. We're here and we're in the business to educate our children. That's our business. Not only academically, but socially and emotionally as well. And as Mrs. Schofield said, that's one of our priorities. This budget supports that, and it reflects those district priorities. Academically, we've heard from the community, and this budget retains 2 teachers in the community, promoting smaller class sizes, one at Colt Andrews and one at Q Cole. And again, academically, it supports our children by the addition of a math coach. Again, we're going to get into all these details. And socially and emotionally, it adds 2 behavior specialists, which are desperately needed throughout this district. The second thing that I want to leave you with are that we have lots to celebrate. These children are amazing, and they wow me every day. If you were at the All Bands concert last night, I know Mr. Flora was, and you saw the xylophone duo performance, that was absolutely amazing. And hopefully we have a chorus concert tomorrow night at Roger Williams. Hopefully you all attend that as well and support those children. Our academics, you will see some of our academic accomplishments, Blue Ribbon Schools. And then of course our sports. I mean, if you haven't been reading the paper, if you've had your head in the sand, I mean, our sports programs and our students are just excelling in every area. The third thing that I want to leave you with is that there are obviously areas that we need to address. And especially wrapped around social emotional and that whole child, and teaching and educating the whole child. And this budget supports that, and that is our priority, again, not only academically, but socially and emotionally as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I also want to thank the Joint Finance Committee for this opportunity to present our budget before you this evening. I also want to recognize members of the school committee and all of our town officials, any state legislators, our administrators, and our parents and teachers in attendance. Thank you for coming out tonight. This evening's presentation will focus on the following areas: the great things happening in our schools, our district goals, our budget development, a summary of the budget financials, striving for success in our district challenges. As both Mr. Bradshaw and Ms. Schofield said, there are great things happening in our schools. At the high school, among other amazing accomplishments at Mount Hope High School, I would like to highlight a few of the recent accolades. The girls hockey team in the state finals, boys basketball, Division III state champions. Megan Oliveira, state champion in hurdles, placed 4th in New England. Tonight, depending on the time, there's an art exhibit at the Rogers Free Library. Check it out. The Mount Hope Drama Club, state champions, going forward to the New England Championship. Our robotics team, winners of the Alliance of the Rhode Island First Tech Championship. Our girls gymnastics team, I think they've won the state title 4 years or 5 years in a row now. Just recently placed 7th in New England. Our high school science fair had 46 award winners, and our Mount Hope High School winners in the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest, and I think they presented before both councils. Some middle school accolades. Our grade 8 STEM is building a device for children with cerebral palsy. Our health teachers are addressing the dangers of tobacco and e-cigarettes through a research program called Catch My Breath. Last year, our KMS grade 8 students received many accolades at the State House for their general citizen competition. And we have a partnership with the Center for Mediation and Collaboration, which trains 10 teachers and 4 students in peer mediation. At our elementary schools, all elementary schools are implementing responsive classrooms, a school-wide social-emotional learning program. Our grade 4 students are involved in Sail Bristol Warren and Kid Win Project. Sail Bristol Warren will be happening again in a couple months, in April and May. So if you see our 4th graders out in the water, that is the most vibrant learning classroom and classroom environment you could ever have. So we're taking advantage of our natural resources. Rockwell scored the 2nd highest in the state in both math and ELA on the state assessment. Gutierrez made significant growth in their achievement and was awarded our 2nd 5-star school. Hugh Cole had 2 students score a perfect score on the state assessment. Additionally, Hugh Cole just started a monthly newspaper article in the Warren Times. Check that out as well. And as you know, Colt Andrew is a Blue Ribbon School Award recipient. But while we're having those accolades, we're doing a lot of work in our pathways to college and career readiness. Internships, career and technical education, real-world learning challenges, and individual pathways. To date, we've established accredited pathways through Project Lead the Way in engineering and business. A computer science and cybersecurity pathway is currently underway. All pathways provide opportunities for industry credentials, college credit, and 80-hour internships. We've also developed a feeder program at the middle school through our STEM classes, which include a design and modeling class and a computer science for innovators and creators. We're also introducing our students to the world of business through a new school store at KMS, bringing our middle school and the high school DECA programs together. We also know, as I said, through our Salem Bristol Warren program, that we need to connect our academics to real-world learning. As part of our strategic plan, we continue to find opportunities for our students to connect their learning in school to the real world, to experience the relevance within the context of real-world problems and careers. Our family and community partnerships bring our schools to life through enrichment programs, field trips, guest speakers, and industry site visits. They also provide opportunities to expand learning beyond the classroom walls, such as the Gutierrez Discovery Garden, which creates an outdoor learning space. And our high school students work with Save the Bay, cleaning up and monitoring the water quality within our towns. In the past year, we've expanded our community partnerships to open the doors for more real-world learning opportunities, such as our student internships. 43 students applied for Prepare Rhode Island paid 80-hour summer internships at companies such as Electric Boat, Amgen, FM Global, and Hasbro. Those 43 students had interviews today with those companies, so we're hoping that many of them secure those jobs this summer. We're partnering with the Rhode Island Marine Trades Association, also for paid summer internships in engineering and business pathways. We're partnering with the Southeast New England Defense Industry Association, try saying that fast, SNIDIA, to integrate career exploration in the STEM programs at KMS. We're partnering with the Rhode Island Marine Trades Association in Herreshoff to develop our grade 4 science and sailing program. We're partnering with Roger Williams for the Kid Wind Project, provides elementary teachers with training in engineering and sustainable energy. We're also very thankful for our ongoing support from the East Bay Chamber of Commerce in connecting schools to businesses, and the many opportunities provided through the Bristol HES, the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalitions, and BWEF. As our community and industry partners grow, we're exploring multiple ways that the partnerships can benefit students. In partnership with Digital Promise, we developed a roadmap to real-world learning. But all of these celebrations are only possible through the development of a sound budget. This past year has been quite a strange year. We have a new finance director to the district, and we've been working with 2 different budget subcommittees. But what we all share is the need to build on the district's financial foundation and take it to the next level of teamwork and transparency. In developing the budget, we focused on a framework of smarter school spending, which really meant to develop a culture that prioritizes the smart and strategic use of resource alignment to the student achievement. We communicated our district-wide goals outlined in the district strategic plan, which is included in your budget documents. Building on that, the school staff worked on our school-level goals, which are also included in your budget narrative. The strategic plan and school-based goals provide the district with a roadmap to align the proposed expenditures to our overall goals. Next, we moved on to focusing on our financials. This is where we used a form of zero-based budgeting, split into levels. Level 1. Level 1 is what we legally or contractually are obligated to pay. Level 2 is what the basic need of the district is outlined in the basic education plan. And level 3 is what is necessary to move the district and the schools forward. School staff, as well as the district staff, then prioritized the expenditures and made reductions or shifts in the expenditures with the goal of providing expenditures that meet the needs of all students. You have noticed that there is a new look in the budget forecast focus based on best practices in school budgeting. The governor's release on information as part of her goal is transparency, which is the same goal we all share. Based on our school level goals, the following district goals have guided our FY20 budget process. Goal 1, increase the school capacity to effectively address the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students that foster safe and productive learning environments. Goal 2, increase the access to research-based academic and behavioral interventions to close the achievement gap and address social, emotional, behavior needs. And goal 3, students at each grade level demonstrate proficiency or high growth in ELA and math by strengthening the core curriculum and research-based programs and instructional practices. So what does the FY 2020 budget support? In the area of academic, emotional, and behavioral supports, this budget has training for social emotional learning programs, increased special education at KMS and New Cole, a math specialist coach at KMS, a school resource officer at KMS, and maintaining the current class size. Additional educational student resources, textbooks, and other resources. We are looking at investing in upgrading our AP textbooks at the high school and preserving our co-curriculars and content areas. Our contractual agreements for staff, employee contractual salary and step increases, our benefit increases, our other contractual agreements, the increases in transportation, increases in utilities and service contracts, our legal requirements, out-of-district tuitions and transportation, charter and state school tuitions, and health, safety repairs and maintenance. And lastly, our partnership for academic achievement, the continuation of Sale Bristol Warren, and our partnership with Roger Williams and URI. At this time, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Ms. Bellerin to further discuss the budget.
Good evening. Before I get into the challenges, I just want to review the budget that you have in front of you tonight for consideration. Encompasses two main funds of the school district. It's a general operational fund of the school district, or general fund, and debt service. What debt service is paying down debt that a school district incurs for capital projects. And those are the two funds which contributions from towns fund. There are other funds within a school district, grants, private donations, and enterprise funds, but they don't contain contributions from the towns. So I just wanted to make that clear, because I know there have been some questions on that. I'm just going to take you through a summary of the revenue and expense at a high level. The budget document that was handed out to you really goes into detail with line items, but we really wanted to bring it up to the highest level to give you a bird's eye view of everything. So the main challenges that we have is the revenue to support the expenditures in the school district. I just want to start out by the smallest portion of revenue to fund, and that is 2.9% of the operational and debt service budget. And that includes Medicaid reimbursement, which is reimbursement for Medicaid applicable services to a school district. It also includes housing aid reimbursement for debt services, because those are for capital expenditures. It also includes preschool tuition and other district activities. Moving up to the second main category that supports the school district, 25% of funding comes from state aid. We are in the 9th year of a 10-year transition of reduction of state aid. In the last 3 years, we've lost over $1.7 million, and it's continuing into 2021. We are highly reliant on contributions from the towns of Warren and Bristol. 72% of our budget comes from those sources. The struggle that we have and the challenges that we're faced is, how do we continuously reduce expenses while losing state aid? But also, how do we continuously ask towns to fund the budget and possibly overburden taxpayers or cut essential services on the municipal side? So this is a community problem. It's what we all face. We are required to present a balanced budget, and this budget did achieve such. It needs an increase to both towns of an overall 9.25% increase, which is $3.5 million. Based on the calculation of the 13-year average of enrollment, the split would be a $2.2 million increase for the town of Bristol, or 8.48% from 2019. The town of Warren, it's an increase of 1.3 million, or roughly 11% from 2019. So why do we need the $3.5 million? And the main core categories, it's a loss of revenue and an increase to expense. Just briefly, we have a slight loss of revenue from those smaller categories that we talked about, and that is from district activities as well as tuition. We are losing housing aid for reimbursement for debt services, and we'll look at that slide a little later. But in reality, we paid off a bond in 2019, so 2020 we only have one bond, so the reimbursement is reduced. We have a loss of state aid, which is significantly better than the loss in 2019. As I said before, over the last 3 years, it was a loss of 1.7 million. Half of that was a reduction in 2019. On the expenditure side, and these expenditures are just for general fund, it's a $2.9 million increase in expenditures. The majority of those increases come from compensation and salaries and benefits. And that makes sense because we are a service organization. Those include, as Dr. Andre had said before, increase to social emotional, special education, math, as well as contractual agreements for our union staff. Anybody non-union did not get an increase next year. It also includes an increase projected in 4% in health, 0.67% increase in overall pension costs for certified staff. When you're going down to the contracted services, the majority of that increase is an increase in transportation and an increase in out-of-district supports for our students. The increase in supplies, materials, and other expenditures, the majority of that is the increase for the textbooks that we talked about in the prior slide. So at the end, that is the summary of the need to request for the town's $3.5 million for a balanced budget. The document that you have, I know people have talked about it, it's a new look. What we did try to build on is transparency. So we provided it at the highest level, which you see here in the summary, but it also goes down to a level of an object code. It provides 3 years worth of actuals, the current budget, and the proposed budget. It gives you an idea of the performance of the school district for the past few years. I do want to caution that it is based on the Uniform Chart of Accounts, and if you know anything about the Uniform Chart of Accounts in the Rhode Island Department of Education, is they sometimes change their mind on where things should be coded, so you may see shifted things. And if you do have a question on a specific line item, reach out to us and we can give you that information. But bringing it back now to a summary level, again, the budget is general funded debt service. So from the revenue side, you're looking at the $3.5 million increase, and we talked about that before. On the expenditure side, you have the 2.9 increase in expenditures for general fund, but you also have a decrease in debt service. But if you look at the top of the slide, there's a decrease in reappropriation of fund balance, and at the bottom, it's a matching decrease This budget does not include any appropriations for fund balance, because in prior years, we were using fund balance to pay down the bond, which that one bond is paid off in 2019. We did use fund balance to reduce the expenses. We used fund balance to pay off a lease in a capital fund, and we also used one-time categorical funds to purchase. We will be purchasing ELA kits. There are some efficiencies that we achieved going forward with this. There were expenditures in FY19 that was technology that weren't funded in 19 and they will not be funded in 20. We are going to reconvene our technology committee and take a look at technology as a whole and how we fund it. There is no flexible furniture in the current FY19 budget. There is not in FY20 as well. We're going to also look at how we can be more efficient, and I know that's in a future slide, with inventory replacement as well as furniture replacement. There is a open position in support staff in FY19. It will remain open in FY20, and we are reducing another support staff. So we have achieved some efficiencies going forward in this budget. This just breaks down what we talked about before at just the lower level. When you're looking, again, the major increases are compensation, salaries, and benefits. When you're looking at the purchase services, netting out professional and property, really net each other out. But other purchase services is where you're going to see the increases for transportation as well as out-of-district supports. When you're looking at supplies and materials, that's where you're going to see the increases for textbook supports for new AP classes, as well as social studies and math supports. And I don't know if you have any questions on this. I'm going to hand it back over to Dr. Andrew.
Thank you, Ms. Pellerin. So we understand this budget requires an increase in town appropriations, but I'm also presenting a budget that has minimal impact to the students. I recognize that budgets are not balanced on increases in revenue alone, which is why we are working to identify district-wide efficiencies that will allow us to continue to support high-quality programs. As part of our continuous improvement, we will be conducting several district performance audits. An audit in our overall efficiencies, an audit in our technology department, and an audit in our special education department. As Ms. Pellerin said, we're looking at centralizing our inventory and instructional supplies to achieve economies of scale. We will continue to explore opportunities for shared services and professional development. And we are taking a hard look at maximizing all of our funds. The results of our efforts will be presented to the budget subcommittee and the full school committee. We are committed to continuously evaluating all of our expenditures in all of our programs. While striving and exploring efficiencies, we must remain focused on student success and especially the whole child. Focusing and educating the whole child with an emphasis on high student achievement, social emotional health, and future success of all students. We need to provide staff and resources to maintain appropriate class size and comply with federal and state mandates. And we must invest in our instructional staff to increase our teacher capacity to improve student learning through professional development and the continuous investment in professional development. So our district challenges. While we're making significant progress in our academic areas, there is still much work to do, especially in the area of math. As noted earlier, we are aligning on staffing and resources to closing the K through 12 gaps in mathematics. However, we are fully cognizant that there are other challenges, especially financial. The loss of state revenue has a tremendous burden on both of our towns. As Zora Kirsten said, there are years that ask questions and years that answer. There is no denying that this is a year of questioning. Over the past year, our schools and community had to face many questions regarding what do the future of our schools look like. While we have many questions about expanding the function of schools, we know one thing. There's an ever-increasing need to support our children. It's an imperative that we start thinking about how schools in the district also supports the community. We need to create a culture that breaks down the school and community walls or time periods whereby we can insulate the educational pipeline by creating both in and out of school programs between and among schools, families, and community agencies that support the social and emotional needs of not only our students, but their families as well. Additionally, we must continue to work with teachers, administrators, and their families to embrace a shared belief that all students can be successful. The better we can be at working together, the better we'll do as a community. So thank you for your consideration in our budget request. And at this time, we'll take any questions.
Does any board members have any questions? Seeing none, we'll move to our next item on the agenda, which is new business.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have one question. Just on the, I'm kind of referring here to the fiscal year 2020 proposed budget booklet right here. I just for record or just for our own informational purposes, maybe for the next meeting or something like that, I noticed on the school facts, the school fact sheets, if you go to Pupil Elementary School, you'll notice that at the very bottom of the school data, it's been kind of cut off. So it makes it difficult to compare what's happening at Pupil, some of the other schools. And then the other, there was just one other thing with regards to Mount Hope High School. You'll notice that the school data with Mount Hope High School that's presented there also doesn't match up with some of the other schools. And I don't know if that's because it's the high school and the other ones are elementary schools.
We'll get you that information.
Is that satisfying? Yep, good. Thank you. Is there any other questions?
I have a question. So, all right, thank you for answering a list of questions that I sent earlier. I'm still kind of curious. The state funding formula, and if it's based on, so the understanding is that it's based on 2018 numbers. Is that correct? So if that is the case, then it's based on more students than we have currently in our system. So why is the how does the funding formula go decrease? And then also when in 2021 does the when the aid becomes when the decrease, so what is that flat number then going forward? Is it going to be a flat number, or is it going to go still be a?
If I could answer that question, it would be awesome. I
Yeah.
think there's been so many committees on how the state funding formula we can go into a little more detail personally, so we can, in the next one, provide that information, but we'll see, the state funding formula is always in flux. So they look at last year's numbers, but there'll be an amendment in April on the recent poll of data from this year. So we get a guesstimate in November, then they'll do a poll of student information this year to see if there's any changes in our student enrollment for reduced population in our elementary schools. They'll poll the town's data to see if there's any changes in the property values and what the towns can support. So it's a huge quadratic formula that no one can understand, or interpret. I think Mr. Cloro, we've been trying to figure this out for the last 10 years on how RIDE derives where it's coming from. So it's pretty complicated, but we'll be more than happy to meet with you and go through it. But and I think did we put the attachment? There's a PowerPoint that's on RIDE that tries to explain it.
Yeah,
It's in
no,
Greek.
I read through it.
It's tough.
There's a swear word.
It's difficult. I mean, and so we can give you a lot more detail in the next presentation. We're not prepared tonight, but it is pretty complicated.
Mr. Wright?
I just had a quick question. First of all, thank you for all the hard work that you've done on the budget. We, appreciate it, very well done and put together. I just had a quick question in regards to the trending in the student population. It's looking like it's going to be continuing to decrease over the years, but the budget continues to increase. So I was just curious as where we're going. You know what I mean? Are we going to continue to see 8 to 9% increases every year? Are we going to, what's the long-term sustainability? Because it's not,
Yep. As you can see in the presentation tonight, a lot of it was contractual obligations. We're hoping that it's not a burden of 8 to 9% increases on the town. Again, as we're conducting audits at this point over the next 6 months, so we'll be looking at efficiencies. As Ms. Pellerin said, a lot of our budget goes to personnel. We do have contracts coming up within, we have one more year of the teacher's contract, and then we'll be negotiating this time next year with the teachers. So we know it's a burden on the towns. As Ms. Pellerin said, that the decrease in the state aid revenue has been a tremendous burden. But it's not our hope or intention to have 8 or 9% increases each year.
And the passing of the school construction bond that was passed, is that going to have any impact on our budget, or just curious on that money that's going to be out there to help with the buildings? Just curious.
So the reimbursement definitely helps us. So at this time, our asset protection plan, we have a current 5-year asset protection plan. I think there was a question on how much do we have in our capital fund. It's about $2.9 million over the next 4 years. That'll fund about $11 million worth of work. Where the Article 9 helps us is the different reimbursement rate. So if it's anything that has to do with green schools, we have a higher reimbursement rate than we typically would. So as a regional, we hovered anywhere from 63 to 70% in reimbursement. With the new Article 9, that can actually increase up to 80%. So it'll help us there in the reimbursement. We also need to be cognizant in Article 9 that in the past we really never asked for maintenance. Our capital fund was funded through any kind of carryover or surplus, that was assigned to capital. Last year, any kind of assignment actually went to pay off our bond, so there was no investment in capital last year. But in the past, we've never asked the JFC or the towns to invest in our capital improvement. Article 9 is requiring all towns to put aside anywhere from 1.5% in maintenance this current year up to 2.5 and 3% in future years. So we just need to be cognizant of that. But we're in good shape right now. So that'll be the impact. But more importantly, I think we need to remember is through Article 9 and the governor's school construction bond, is the amount of reimbursement that regional gets. So it'll go anywhere from 63 to 70% currently, close to 80% in future years. So I think our district is in really good shape when we look at capital improvements to our schools over the next 5 years. Well positioned.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm gonna go to Mary first, Tony. Ladies
Just a
first.
quick follow-up to that. You mentioned Article 9, that all the towns have to put aside a percentage. Does that mean we're, you, as a regional district, do your own bond, so is it the district that has to put that aside or the towns? Because how does that, like, you guys would have to put money aside for that?
Correct. Yeah, it's complicated.
I'm sorry, it was really hard to hear your question. Could you restate that? Because it sounded,
Yeah, I was just asking, the question about the school building fund, and he said that all the towns have to put money aside for that, and I was just saying that under the regional district, usually that bonding and all that goes to the district. And so we as towns still be having to do that,
okay.
so it's kind of hard to hear, so.
Yeah, it'll be the school district's obligation, so.
Oh, the district, not the
Yeah,
town.
right, the school district.
So, just for clarification,
Yeah.
so out of the school budget, JC, whatever that budget is, 1.5 to 3%
Will
would
be in a future request.
will be put aside.
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
But it'll be in the request to us.
Correct.
You're up, Tony.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the slide presentation, the slide entitled Fiscal Year 2020 Budget Summary, I noticed there is interest income of $45,000 for FY19, FY20, it says $47,000. What was the source of that income, interest income?
That's based because we are a regional school district and we actually house our own bank accounts. It's the interest earned on the money in the bank accounts.
Thank you.
Well,
Does anyone else have a question? I actually do have one question. On the slide that you presented, what does the fiscal year 2020 budget support, and you went into a list of items that are supported. Is the 2019 budget already supporting those same items, and you're looking for an increase? Or is this something new that you wanted to implement? And if you needed time to prepare to come back, that's fine.
These are additional supports.
These additional.
Well, maintaining class size is maintaining the class size, so there's no reduction in our teaching force. There are new positions and new programs for social emotional. There's an increase of a school resource officer, and then just the increases in our contractual obligations. So these are new expenses.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One other quick question, and that is, when you talk about social emotional, and you talked a little bit about it, it can be a lot of things, from mindfulness to, stress reduction, trauma informed, et cetera. What, are you looking at specific programs, are you looking at counselors, you're looking at bringing particular programs, like, I know we had funded a program on HeartMath, like, in Kentucky for a while, like, that brought in quiet time and things like that. Are you looking at specific things?
We are looking at a multi-tiered support system that addresses tier 1, which is for all students, tier 2 that is for some students, and tier 3 that is for specific students. So one thing through our research with KMS Safety and Security is how do we open up a new alternate learning center, I don't want to call it ALP, which will be for some students. We're looking at increases in our clinical support and behavior specialists that could help tier 2 and give professional development to our teachers. And then responsive classrooms and tier 1 support. So it's a multiple ways. We've had conversations with East Bay Mental Health on how they can come into the schools and do wraparound services for students and families as well. So it's going to be a multi-tiered system. It's not going to be a canned program, but it could be whether we're investing in PBIS. But we're looking at multi-tiered and really wrap wraparound comprehensive services.
There'd be two behavioral specialists for the whole district, doesn't sound like there is much better. I mean, maybe if that's, what you're banking on.
No, so that'll work with some of our tier 3 and tier 2, but also provide professional development for all the adults on how do you set that culture of respect and mutual respect, and address some concerns more at the antecedent level, so we can address behaviors before they actually happen, and especially where the wraparound services and counseling, so we're able to do targeted interventions, whether it's check-in and check-outs at the day, making sure the kids are good. So we want to be more proactive than reactive, and sometimes a behavior specialist is more reactive than proactive.
So would you see that being like hiring behavior specialists, would that be contracted out to like East Bay?
So we have currently contracts with Pathways and looking upwards, so there might be an increase in our partnership with Pathways, but we are also looking at in-house special educators or a behavior specialist. So, but we're looking at a very robust, comprehensive system. While we're having conversations at KMS, as Ms. Schofield said, we know it's a K-8 conversation. The high school is well positioned right now with their wraparound services, but we know we have to really build a robust K-8 system that includes the community and their families.
On the behavioral specialist, I was just curious, is, once the child has a behavioral problem, are they put into a separate classroom with a behavioral specialist, or are they still continuing mainstream? It's just sort of, how does that process work, just so I understand?
Yes and yes, it depends on the situation. Our goal and intent is to have the student mainstream as much as possible. So we do not want to be excluding our students. We want them receiving guaranteed and viable curriculum in the classroom in front of our excellent teachers. So our goal is to have our students in there. But we also know there's times that a student needs to be removed from the stimulus around him or her. And so they may need a day in working with an alternate learning classroom and then working their way back in when they're ready to do so. But the goal is to have our students in the classroom as much as possible, but have those supports. It's very individualized. So there may be a student who's in there for a day or 2 days or 2 weeks, but again, that intent is always to have him or her in general education settings.
And I just want to make sure that this is going to give the teachers the support they need to be able to do the great job that they're already doing.
Absolutely.
You know, that's really important. And also that those kids that are well behaved, they're not getting lost in the system.
That's our intent.
That's why I'm worried. Is it two really going to do it?
It's a comprehensive system. What it looks like this year might look different than in 2 years, because again, I think we have to build our capacity and with the right supports that are necessary. So we're committed to shifting our resources as we're currently doing. Over the last 6 weeks, we've increased our services at KMS, and we would have restocked funding certain initiatives this year so that we could pay for an officer in the building at KMS, increase our clinical services this year. So it depends on the needs of the student and how much support they need. So it's really student focused, but our intent, I have to give tremendous kudos to our teachers who are working with us on the safety and security, and the voices of KMS and Hugh Cole currently, as well as the support of our school committee, on really addressing the issues before us. So they've given us tremendous support, their voices are heard, but we're trying to develop those programs together. And it's a flexible model. It's really dependent on what's the students in front of us. But we're thinking 2 behavior specialists, the increase of clinical supports, the increase of programs like East Bay Mental Health will actually be enough of the wraparound services to support our educators and our teachers at the same time.
So what are you gonna do to support the families? Because I mean, it's not gonna help the kids just to have the clinical services if they're.
So we're writing a grant currently that's due on Friday with MCAT. We have a navigator at the high school that works with students and families that actually helps, for the lack of a better term, navigate the social services in the community. I'm sure there's a similar program in Pathways, but really what we're discovering is that the social services system is really complex. And so this EdCap grant that we're writing is actually a person that really, the priority is to work with the families. So while they're providing supports, clinical supports to the students, the family must be invested. They must be there and part of the process. And during that, those conversations, the navigator will look at how do we provide heat and oil in the home? Are they getting enough food? Are they receiving emotional and mental support from a clinician in the community? Do they have the right insurance? All those anxieties that stem from home that trickle down to school. So those are the wraparound services that we're looking for.
So how would you envision that? Like how many per school or one per school or?
So we have one, so we have one at the high school currently, and that's actually through the Bristol Heads partnership, and through that grant, and that's grant funded. And then through East Bay Mental Health, then there'll be another program that will be housed at the middle school, but we're actually envisioning that they would actually help the K-8 programs, whether it's at Hugo or the Bristol schools. By just having an extra body in the schools, someone as a navigator will allow our social workers to actually work with families differently. Right now, our social workers have the burden and the tax to do all the work and provide the services. So by having a navigator, that alleviates some of the stress on them so that they can work with our students differently. So it'll be a nice addition, and hopefully get the grant.
Do you have any other questions? Ms. Schofield has a question.
I just wanted to provide a little more information on what Mario was just saying. Excuse me. So to Tim's point, we've really been working with the teachers and administrators at KMS to build this program. And since our KMS subcommittee was formed, we've been doing a lot of research. We've visited, I think, 5 schools in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, middle schools now, to see what kinds of programs they have in place to address their social emotional needs. Because this is not a problem that's exclusive to Bristol Warren. This is a challenge that most districts right now are facing. And what we're doing is looking at all of these programs and talking about them and meeting regularly to figure out what programs would best fit at KMS. So it's kind of gathering knowledge, and we also have right now a clinical psychologist who has set up a number of these programs, who's working in our middle school to with teachers and with administrators to identify what the needs really are in that school. So that's why when we talk about number of behavioral specialists, social workers, and that, I think right now, I think we're still in that building stage, that identifying what exactly the teachers and students need in place and the administrators and what those things will be. So we're really right now, we've been working so much, so hard to lay the groundwork for a program that I hope will be a district-wide system that we can put in place at all our schools, that will really work for our students.
I mean, to a large degree, you're talking about community schools. I mean, that's really what you're talking about.
And that's,
Basically.
to your point, and that's how we need to start redefining what our schools look like. And so it is a wraparound services. We envision our schools being open 24/7 in the future, so.
I mean, I have to say, I'm a little disappointed that.
Excuse me,
Oh,
Mary.
well,
We can hardly hear you.
I know, I could hardly hear other people too, I'm sorry. So, I know, it's hard, it's very echoey,
Yeah.
I think. Just to follow up, I mean, I'm personally just because you know what I do, I'm a little disappointed that, you know, and I know that we don't have a lot of money, particularly in the cozy world. And in Bristol Warren, we have less than we would have in some of the urban districts because we're eligible for other grants that bring those wraparound services in. So, you know, I feel like, I'm just disappointed to hear that some of the schools where they are active, that some of those wraparound services aren't already in place. That is really the mission of what we're supposed to be doing. And I say that because that's
Seeing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is new business. Discussing an action and proposal to the 2019-2020 Bristol Warren Regional School District budget.
I feel like we did that.
Yeah. Exactly. Can't be that. Is there any other member that has a question for, okay, would be here next week, right? From 2 weeks to 26th.
Yeah, well, without really any further questions, we've heard a lot tonight, a lot to digest, so I think we'll probably have more to ask and probably for the public.
So just so that we're all on the same page, the next meeting is March 26th, 6 p.m., is that
7 o'clock, my members.
7 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
That's why I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah, so 7 p.m., same location,
Auditorium, right?
or are we in the auditorium?
Was advertised to be here. One of the motivations, so everyone knows, is a lot of discussion about sitting here and not up on the stage. It felt more connected, it was more conversational, and a lot of people agreed with that thought process. And it felt like it was big enough from past years. There was enough space here to make sure that people could be here and attend.
Can I just say about that though, I do think it's like harder to hear in here than it is in the auditorium.
What did you say, Mary?
I mean, no, seriously, it's like harder to hear, like echoing.
So my lovely clerk here, who has been with me by my side through all the zoning board meetings, has handed me the agenda, and it was advertised here. And the
Yes.
secretary.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion, any other items on the agenda? Dr. Andre, before we close the meeting, is there anything else you would like to add before we adjourn?
No, I just want to thank the Joint Finance Committee in both towns for your continued support, and we appreciate you taking a bunch of requests into consideration, but thank you for the years of support. This is really a community coming together to define the future of our schools, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I thank all the members of the public that have attended. We appreciate your support and the faith you have in the JFC. Is there a motion for adjournment?